Good evening. This is CTV News for November 6th. I'm Mariah Jalad. Thanks for joining us. Early this morning, Donald J. Trump was declared the winner of the presidential election, beating Vice President Kamala Harris to 270 electoral votes and in the popular vote. Former President Trump made major gains in every battleground state, as you can see here in the so-called blue wall of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And one of the first calls that gave Trump a clear path to 270 was North Carolina, with 16 electoral votes, and Georgia, which was the first state to flip from the 2020 election. And unlike in his win in 2016, Trump is also on the way to winning the popular vote, with 51% of Americans voting for him to return to the White House. Byron Scott continues our coverage of his decisive win.
Hey, look what happened. Is this crazy?
Today's headlines boldly tell the story of a decisive win. The Washington Post.
This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before.
The New York Times.
There's never been anything like this in this country, and maybe beyond.
The Philadelphia Inquirer.
We're going to help our country heal.
Trump elected 47th U.S. president, declared the L.A. Times, and this from the New York Daily News.
I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president.
Trump clearly surpassed the necessary 270 electoral votes needed for victory, whereas Kamala Harris trailed. And for the first time since 2004, a Republican presidential candidate also won the popular vote.
We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible.
With a measure of confidence, Trump addressed his supporters in Florida, claiming victory before the race was confirmed.
Every citizen, I will fight for you, for your family, and your future. Every single day I will be fighting for you, and with every breath in my body, I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America that our children deserve and that you deserve.
CTV News was with Republican voters in Baltimore last night, among them Alfonso Talavera.
He identified himself with the Hispanic Latino community,
who said Trump's message to Hispanics resonated with him.
Inflation has been a killer for our community. You know, I mean, our community, you have an average per family of $60,000, $70,000 per year. And some of them, they have 2 or 3 kids. You know, with $70,000 right now, there's nothing.
Democrats have not come up with an argument for, I just can't afford to live.
As for President-elect Trump, a plan moving forward and a wide tent.
They came from all corners, union, non-union, African-American, Hispanic-American, Asian-American, Arab-American, Muslim-American. We had everybody, and it was beautiful. And we're going to have a great 4 years, and we're going to turn our country around, make it something very special.
Byron Scott, CTV News.
Thank you, Byron. And last night, Trump's opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris, and her supporters gathered in the nation's capital, awaiting the fate of the presidential election. CTV's Bryce Parker has more.
Vice President Kamala Harris held her election watch party last night at her alma mater, Howard University, and a crowd filled with international press, current and former Howard students and faculty, and visitors from across the country gathered to watch the 2024 presidential election unfold. But as the night went on and results came in, the mood shifted from celebratory to somber. Harris began losing key battleground states like North Carolina, Georgia, and in the end could not secure the coveted blue wall. A Trump re-election moving from a possibility to fate. At the end of the night, Harris's vice president of her campaign announced that she would not make an appearance as votes were still being counted.
We will continue overnight to fight to make sure that every vote is counted, that every voice has spoken. So you won't hear from the vice president tonight, but you will hear from her tomorrow. She will be back here tomorrow to address not only the HU family, not only to address her supporters, but to address the nation.
From Washington, D.C., Bryce Parker, CTV News.
Thank you, Bryce. We'll have more on the vice president's remarks tomorrow. And with Donald Trump returning to the White House, Republicans will have control of the executive and legislative chambers, taking the majority in the Senate and on the way to do the same in the House. 52 seats in the Senate have officially been called by the Associated Press for Republicans, flipping at least 3 with 6 races yet to be called. Big wins came in Ohio, where GOP newcomer Bernie Moreno took the seat from incumbent Democrat Sherrod Brown, and in Montana, where 3-term Democrat Senator Jon Tester lost to Trump-backed Tim Sheehy. With about 50 races yet to be called to take the majority, Democrats will need to flip 4 seats and hold all of their own. And Marylanders have decided to send a Democrat, Angela Alsobrooks, to the U.S. Senate. Alsobrooks' victory last night is historical, as no other black person has ever represented Maryland in the Senate chamber. CTV's Katara Jones was inside the Alsobrooks election night watch party in College Park as the crowd celebrated her win.
That's right. For the first time in Maryland history, Maryland voters have elected a black woman, Angela Alsobrooks, to represent them in the U.S. Senate. Dr. Charlene Dukes, the vice chair of the Maryland Democratic Party, announced the unofficial results to this crowd of Alsobrooks supporters tonight. And as of 10:38 p.m., unofficial results show that Angela Alsobrooks had about 51% of the vote. Now, this big announcement brought a roaring cheer from people inside this ballroom in College Park. Some of the state's top Democratic leaders spoke tonight, including Governor Wes Moore and retiring U.S. Senator Ben Cardin. And just a moment ago, Maryland's next U.S. Senator, Angela Alsobrooks, took the stage.
Now, it's remarkable to think that in 2 years, America will celebrate its 250th birthday. And in all those years, there have been more than 2,000 people who have served in the United States Senate, and only 3 have looked like me. And so I want to salute all of those who came before me, who made it possible for me to stand on this stage tonight, whose sacrifices and stories I will continue to carry with me. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank each and every Marylander.
As Angela Alsobrooks embarks to Congress, she is now only the 2nd woman from Maryland to hold the title as U.S. Senator. Katara Jones, CTV News.
Thank you, Katara. And according to the State Board of Elections, Alsobrooks captured 52% of the vote, which secured her seat to the U.S. Senate. And with that Senate race called for Angela Alsobrooks and Council Chair Jolene Ivey securing the county at-large seat with nearly 90% of the vote, major changes are coming to the Prince George's County political scene. County Executive Angela Alsobrooks will be moving to the U.S. Senate, and there's soon to be a vacancy with the highest office in Prince George's. The change puts a plan into motion in the County Council, depending on if Alsobrooks doesn't resign and keeps her position until being sworn in as a senator. If that's the case, the Council has 14 days to select a successor from among its members, who will then serve out the rest of Alsobrooks' term. If they can't make a decision, the Council chairperson automatically becomes the new executive. In that case, it will be Jolene Ivey, the newly elected at-large member by special election, to fill Mel Franklin's vacated seat. If events pan out that way, there will be another 2 special elections just to fill Ivey's previous seat as District 5 representative and again to fill the at-large seat. However, it's still possible that Alsobrooks could resign her position before the swearing-in. If she does that before December 5th, then the county's chief administrative officer, Tara Jackson, becomes the acting county executive, and a special election will be held with an open primary to fill the seat and serve the last 2 years of Alsobrooks' term. And we reached out to Angela Alsobrooks and her team to ask if she had any plan to resign as county executive. They have not responded to that request. And for former Governor Larry Hogan, a fierce competitor in this high-stakes Senate election, it was a hard-fought loss. Hogan has officially conceded the race, acknowledging Alsobrooks' victory and calling for unity. Our Michaela Newton has the story.
Former Republican Governor Larry Hogan conceded the Maryland Senate race to Angela Alsobrooks in a closely watched race that could have tipped the balance of power in the Senate. Larry Hogan conceded graciously, speaking in Annapolis during his campaign event, congratulating Alsobrooks and calling for unity moving forward.
As governor, I had the privilege of working closely with Angela. She's a dedicated public servant, and all of us should wish her much success. And Yumi and I offer our best wishes and our prayers to Angela and her family. But now is the time for us to come together and to move forward as one state and one nation, to respect the will of the voters and the outcome of the democratic process.
Hogan's bid faced challenges, particularly running in a state where Democrats hold a strong majority. And though he had won over many Democrats as governor, this race saw the first real clash between Hogan and Trump, whose unpopularity in Maryland hurt the Republicans' chances. Critics of Hogan's campaign says he changed his stance on abortion, but some voters still stuck by his side.
I honestly think they're listening to the wrong person. At this point, you have Hogan that is very strong, and I think they need to worry about who they have in the Senate right now that have not made any decisions that are worth Marylanders.
A historic win for Alsobrooks, but a big loss for Hogan. And for the state of Maryland, it marks the beginning of a new chapter in its political history. Reporting in Annapolis, Michaela Newton, CTV News.
Thank you, Michaela. And for most college students, this was the first election they participated in, and this cycle's showdown has drawn mixed reaction from young voters. CTV spoke with students at Prince George's Community College about their reactions to the presidential and Maryland Senate races.
I find it crazy that they rather have a rapist and 34 felonies rather than a woman. That was crazy to me. And she was in all three branches of the government. She was overqualified for the job, but because she was a woman, didn't happen. Same thing to Hillary Clinton.
I was a bit shocked, but I wasn't too surprised. I feel like I knew it was going to go that way. I just know that he has a lot of support in those areas in which he won. I mean, this is the South, so I wasn't too surprised about that.
I really thought I was doomed. First thing I sent was my cousin. I'm like, oh my God, we're doomed. But Maryland's protected in some aspects. I just hope that I don't get hate crimed. Honestly, that's what I was really scared of, because he's incited like a lot of riots, a lot of hate speech on anybody who was of color. So
what do you think about Angela Alsobrooks winning the Senate race?
I was really happy about that. I think she's going to be great for Maryland, and she had my vote.
I appreciate that there's a black woman in the seat. Apparently that's the first black senator that we've had in Maryland. I don't know much about her policies, so I wasn't 100% sure, but Hogan is a Republican, so it's good to have a Democratic seat in the Senate, just because there's so many Republican seats and they're kind of outnumbered, and for her to be a black woman love her.
Larry Hogan and Angela Alsobrooks, they've been going back and forth in ads. I found that hilarious, but I was wanting Larry Hogan to win because he did good as our governor. So.
And although the presidential race has been called, some states are still too close to call. And you're watching CTV News. I'm Mariah Gillette. Still to come, we have the congressional numbers from the election and find out who's joining the school board. Back in a moment.
When we have the food we need, we are at our best. We push further. We rise higher. We unlock our full potential. When we are at our best, we have more to offer the world around us. When we have the food we need, we make our communities stronger. Together, we can help everyone get the food they need to thrive. Join the movement to end hunger at feedingamerica.org/actnow.
Meet the scan, a simple procedure whose mission is to detect lung cancer early.
I'm here to save you.
But I feel fine.
That's great, but you may still be at high risk for lung cancer.
Oh man, that's a new fence.
If you smoke, early detection could save your life. Learn more at savedbythescan.org.
We're with Bridget, whose husband won't be home for months and whose daughter is due any day. We're with Mike, who's leaving home to protect his family and yours. Thanks to your donations, we're with all service members and their families who need community, connection, and maybe a bit of magic. Are you with them? Learn more at uso.org today.
Welcome back. There were 3 Maryland congressional seats that cover Prince George's County up for grabs this election, and all incumbents in those districts will remain in their seats. In District 4, incumbent Democrat Glenn Ivey defends his seat with 88% of the votes, beating Republican George McDermott. In District 5, longtime Congressman Steny Hoyer wins by 66% of the votes against GOP challenger Michelle Talkington with 34%. And in District 8, incumbent Jamie Raskin wins with 75% of the votes to Sherry Riley's 22%. Meanwhile, we had 5 Board of Education seats up for grabs in the county, and 2 incumbents lost their seats. In District 1's open seat, Tiffany Anderfull wins with 65% of the votes against Donna Barretow's 35%. Shayla Adams Stafford ran uncontested, keeping her District 4 school board seat. And in District 5, incumbent Zipporah Miller loses her seat to Robin Brown in a 57% to 43% race. In District 7, another incumbent, Kenneth Harris II, loses his seat to Felton Moss in a tight 51% to 48% race. And lastly, in District 8, Angela Jones will keep her seat after an even tighter race against Zakiya Goins McCants, winning 50% of the vote. And Maryland voters approved a ballot question that will enshrine abortion rights in the state constitution. On the ballot was Question 1, a constitutional amendment that will codify the right to reproductive freedom and protect access to an abortion. The measure will also protect patients and healthcare providers from criminal charges imposed by abortion laws in other states. According to the State Board of Elections, unofficial results show that an overwhelming 74% of Marylanders voted in favor of Question 1. And with the election over, some are wondering how a Trump presidency will impact Maryland. Democrats say they are concerned Trump could impact the building of a new key bridge in Baltimore. President Biden has stressed the federal government should foot most of the costs. Republicans have yet to agree to that plan. And one of Governor Wes Moore's priorities, the Red Line in Baltimore, which would rely heavily on federal grants, could be in jeopardy. Another project of concern, the new FBI headquarters, which would require heavy federal investment. During his presidency, Trump preferred to build a new facility in downtown D.C. Construction is expected to start in Greenbelt in 2029. It's unclear how a new Trump administration may impact that process. And meantime, Montgomery County voters agreed to shorten the term limits for its county executive. According to the State Board of Elections, 68% of voters in Montgomery County cast their ballot in favor of reducing the term limit from 3 to 2 consecutive terms. That means Mark Elrich, who is currently serving his 2nd term as county executive, will not be able to seek re-election. Elrich has 2 years left in his term. And still to come on CTV News, find out how Trump's re-election may affect the economy, and I have the pet of the week. Back in a moment.
My name's Stacy, I'm 57, and I was adopted in 2020.
We were adopted in 2019.
And we were adopted in 2021.
We had a house, and it sounds crazy, but it wasn't a home. The one thing that Jake and Emma brought is it became a home.
When I met Dakota, he had just turned 14.
You weren't there for the first this and the first that. I missed the first words, but we got a lot of other firsts.
Watching her say, oh my God, I cannot believe I got my license. And she's like, I passed. And I'm like, girl.
See them grow. It is.
They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
You and you.
Kids in the middle.
What I thought was a complete life was nowhere near complete. But it is now.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
Got one of these hanging on the wall? You're qualified. One of these? You're qualified too. Love a good checklist? Qualified. 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 Yep, qualified.
Because if you know how to put up anything in your home,
You're qualified to save lives by installing free smoke alarms in your community. Go to soundthealarm.org to find a volunteer event near you.
The U.S. stock market, banks, and Bitcoin are all surging today as investors look ahead to what a potential Donald Trump return could mean for the economy. But some are feeling the heat, the Mexican peso, solar companies, and anyone worried about higher inflation. Historically, the stock market tends to rise after elections regardless of who's in the White House, though Democrats have seen bigger gains since 1945. And while there were many issues drawing people to the polls, it appears, according to AP Cast Vote, that the economy was the #1 issue and that most people said Donald Trump is better able to handle it. The share of voters who said their family's financial situation was falling behind rose to about 3 in 10. It was roughly 2 in 10 in the last presidential election. Many voters are still hurting from inflation that spiked to a 4-decade high in June of 2022. About 9 in 10 voters are concerned about the cost of groceries. 8 in 10 are concerned about the cost of health care, housing, and gas. And we now have an update in the case of the young child who accidentally shot herself this past Sunday. The Prince George's County Gun Crimes Unit has identified and charged 18-year-old Elijah Fauntleroy with reckless endangerment and multiple firearms offenses. On November 3rd, officers responded to a home in Bowie where officers located the child suffering from a gunshot wound. Investigation revealed Fauntleroy brought the gun into the home and left it unattended in the living room area. After the child accidentally shot herself, Fauntleroy grabbed the gun and ran from the home. Anyone with information on this case is asked to call the Gun Crimes Unit at 301-772-8960. And in Landover, a man is being held without bond for the murder of his own brother. 28-year-old Brylian Kelly is charged with fatally stabbing his brother, 23-year-old Simi Kelly. On November 4th, around 6 p.m., officers responded to the 8600 block of Riker Street for a stabbing. Officers located the victim outside suffering from trauma. He was taken to the hospital where he was pronounced dead a short time later. State's Attorney Aisha Braveboy said in a statement today she's pleased that he will remain in custody and her office, specifically the Special Victims Unit, will work diligently to handle this very sensitive case. Well, it's time for our pet of the week. Meet Max. He's a 13-year-old Siberian Husky mix. She's been at the shelter since October 30th. Animal management says Max is a smart boy who knows sit and speak and would love to learn some more commands.
Would do well in an active home. Although he's a senior dog, he is a husky. Huskies are working breeds that are very high energy, so he would definitely need a yard to run around in. He would probably love a family with kids. He's a senior, so although he probably is not as active as a 2 or 3-year-old husky, he still has lots of energy.
And if you would like to adopt Max or any of his furry friends, call Animal Management at 301-780-7200. And after the break, Simon Buggs has our Wednesday sports page.
We grew up together. We believed in something bigger than ourselves. The military took me to one side of the world and her to the other. And even though she was always the strong one, when we caught up years later, I found out she had fallen on some hard times. It was her call to make, but doing it together made all the difference.
When I see homeless vets on my route, I always think to myself, we both swore an oath to protect our way of life, to protect our community. With VA's hotline for homeless vets, I can get them connected with help to get them back on their feet again.
VA's round-the-clock hotline can put veterans who are homeless in touch with the resources and support they earned through their military service. You have the power to help a veteran facing homelessness. Go to va.gov/homeless to print your wildcards. For veterans who are homeless or on the brink of homelessness, call 877-424-3838.
All right, everyone, get hyped because it's time for your Wednesday sports page. We begin with some NFL news as the NFL trade deadline was yesterday, and teams made as many moves as they can to try and make a postseason push. And one of the teams that made a move is my Washington Commanders. Washington traded for former New Orleans Saints cornerback Marshawn Lattimore to help bolster their secondary. The four-time Pro Bowler was traded in exchange for a third, fourth, and sixth-round pick. The former first-round pick received a lot of interest from teams leading up to the deadline. Lattimore will join a secondary that features Benjamin St-Juste, rookie Mike Sainristil, and Noah Igbenogany. The Baltimore Ravens also added a new player to their roster as they traded for two-time Pro Bowl cornerback Tre'Davious White. White will look to help boost the team's passing defense as they have struggled this season, as they are ranked dead last in the league. The Louisiana native was traded to Baltimore in exchange for a 2026 seventh-round pick. White had been listed as a healthy scratch by his previous team, the Los Angeles Rams, since Week 4 and since requested a trade. White will join a secondary that features Marlon Humphrey, Nate Wiggins, and Brandon Stevens. And the Terps basketball team season is underway, and the team has a nice mix of freshmen and veterans that are all looking to be the best players they can be to help this team succeed. And one freshman in particular that has big goals for himself is guard Malachi Palmer.
My main personal goal is just to be the best player I can be, get better every day, always be better than I was yesterday. So that's a personal goal that I have for myself. And whether that's diving on the floor for loose balls, taking charges, hitting open shots, I just want to play my role, do whatever it takes to win.
Palmer and the rest of the team will take the court next against Mount St. Mary's on Friday. And wrapping up sports, the Washington Capitals will return to action tonight. The team will take the ice against the Nashville Predators at 7 o'clock. And that wraps up your Wednesday sports page. Simon Buggs, CTV Sports.
Thanks, Simon. Now let's get a look at our 3-day weather forecast. Tonight will be mostly cloudy and we have a chance of rain overnight. Tomorrow that rain is sticking around for the morning and we'll have a high of 78. Friday, it's going to be nice and sunny with a high of 72. Saturday, another nice day on the horizon. We'll have a high of 62 and a low of 62. And for our community calendar, this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, DMV native and legendary comedian Martin Lawrence will be at the MGM National Harbor. Lawrence rose to fame in the early 90s with roles like Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing and later went on to star in his own sitcom, Martin. Showtime is at 8 p.m. all 3 nights. For more information, you can contact 844-646-6847. And that wraps up CTV News for now. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again tomorrow. Good night. What is that? A high?
I'm a firefighter.
A teacher.
I'm a farmer. I'm a barber.
A waitress. A mom. We're all part of your community. Every day we move in and out of each other's busy lives.
It's easy to take for granted all the little moments that make up our everyday.
Some are good, others not so much.
But that's life. It's when you experience a moment of uncertainty. Something or someone's behavior that doesn't seem quite right.
These are the moments to take a pause.
Because if something doesn't feel right, it's probably not. It's not about paranoia
or being afraid.
It's about standing up and protecting our communities.
One detail at a time.
Because a lot of little details can become a pattern.
We
trust our instincts.
Just like you should.
Because only you know what's not supposed to be in your everyday.
So protect your everyday.
If you see something suspicious, say something to local authorities.